It is official. Help a Teacher Facebook Live. And here's the cool thing is, here's what I love about doing Help a Teacher Facebook Live. There's a lot I love about it, but one of the things I really love about it is it forces, like, it serves as the impetus to have conversations with people I know and care about and love and follow on Facebook. And that's the cool thing about my gig is, like, I travel around the nation, and every once in a while you come across somebody, you just meet and connect, and next thing you know, they're part of your life. Not, we don't live, anywhere near each other, thousands of miles apart. However, there seems to be a lot of parallels in our life and what's important to us, and care about kids, making a difference in the lives of other people. And Tricia Kiah is one of those folks. Now, when we met, I remember we were in New York, and I was doing my Teaching a Rock Star little shindiggity thing that I do. And at one of the breaks, I was coming down the hallway there, and I looked down and I saw a tattoo. And sometimes you see a tattoo and it's just like, oh, tattoo. But sometimes you see a tattoo and you look at it and you think, man, I know there's a story behind that one. And I said, hey, what's up with that tattoo? And he told me this crazy, incredible. And I don't know, a friendship was born. And so I can't wait for you guys to get to know her. And so, here's the thing. I'm going to guess that we have known each other for close to a decade. And my favorite picture, listen, Tricia, she gets the award for photogenic, and she gets the award for her hair game. And that's one of my favorite pictures because it just speaks volumes about personality and the fact that she's got a chart marker or a highlighter or something in her hand. It might be my favorite. All right, can't wait for you guys to meet my friend Tricia Kiah. All the way, I'm going to say, is it considered upstate New York? Is that right?
Central New York, dead set in the middle of the state.
All I know, it's not Texas. That's not
Texas.
No.
We're expecting a very big snowstorm.
How big?
Right now New York City is buried,
Right.
And it's working its way up to Central New York. We're thinking it's going to be 2 to 3 inches per hour starting around 10 o'clock. So I'm thinking we might not have school tomorrow.
Hey, listen, I grew up in New Jersey, and I remember sitting by the radio, because this is the way it went down in the 70s. You sit by the radio and you wait for them to call your number, and every school had a school number. And I can't tell you how many times, like, we might have been like PS 132, and they go PS 129, PS 130, PS 131, PS 133. It's like, wait, what? What happened to 132? And we get skipped over, and then we have to go to school, but then we call it off and have to go home. But a snow day was a big deal growing up.
We haven't had one yet, and that's highly unusual because I live right in the snow belt. So we haven't had one. The timing of every storm has been weekends or after school hours. So yeah. We're due.
Hey, let me ask you, how long have you, total number of years, how long have you been in the teaching game?
I have been teaching for 22 years. I graduated from college in 1995.
And what I'm curious, what was it for you? I don't think we ever talked about that. What was it for you? Like, at what point did you know, like, this is what I was going to do, and it's kind of where my passion is, and I want to, invest my life in the lives of kids? When was that first thought for you?
I was going to Rochester Institute of Technology. I was earning a 2-year degree in educational sign language interpreting. I wanted to do this. And once I got there, learning was always very hard for me. And I was connected with a special education teacher on campus who really took the time to teach me how to learn. And she really opened up an entire world for me that was just never there before. I was always like a C student. Even in college, when I was thriving on the coursework that I chose, I was struggling. So once she gave me some tools and this entire world of learning opened, and I was, making Dean's List, and all of a sudden I was an A student, and now I'm smart. So I worked as an interpreter for a while, but I was always working in public schools. And as I'm doing this, I'm watching the teacher and I'm more fascinated with what the teacher was doing than what's going on my hands. And I worked in an inner city school in Rochester, New York. I worked with eighth graders and I followed them, this group of deaf eighth graders, from class to class all day long. And I was always amazed at the same group of kids, how they would behave for different teachers and how the success was different depending on the classroom. And it really didn't matter what the subject was, but it was the approach of the teacher. And that's what became fascinating to me, that not only were certain teachers just able to make learning happen, but they were able to connect with kids on a personal level, and those kids then became invested. So after that, I decided to go back to school to become a teacher. And I
Isn't it
wanted to be a
fascinating?
special ed teacher.
Man, isn't it fascinating how I love that you got to see that perspective. Very few educators get to see that. As you walk into the classroom, there's a complete academic, intellectual, there's a complete emotional shift of kids. The same kid
Mhm.
just walking into a different classroom turns into a whole different personality in that kid simply
Yeah.
because of the culture that's created by the teacher.
And I was very privileged really early on in my career that I got to sit in a lot of different classrooms, inner city schools, suburban schools, wealthier schools, poorer schools. And it didn't really matter whether it was urban, rural, or suburban. It really, everything was the teacher and how well they knew their craft, how well they were able to connect with kids. And that made all the difference. And I've been in so many classrooms as the interpreter, as the special education teacher, and I have really had a front seat in watching kids just come to life or kids just completely fall apart, depending
Yeah.
on the role of the teacher in the classroom.
I've always called it emotional associative conditioning. And that is kids become conditioned to associate a certain emotion with the classroom, with the teacher. And you can watch it, man. You can stand in the hallway. I always suggest to teachers do that. Just stand in the hallway because you kind of know which teachers have what kind of vibe with kids, and just watch the emotional shift of a kid. You can see their physiology change where they walk into that class. It's like the shoulders go down, the head goes down, they take the breath off. But that same kid will walk into the next period, into the next class, and the shoulder up, chest out, take a deep breath. Hey, miss, what's up? What are we doing today? Same kid, just a whole different classroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so for you, as you got into when you made that shift from following the kids around from class to class and helping those kids, and to when you were had your own classroom, was it what you thought it was, or was it a complete shock?
It was a complete shock. It was a complete shock. Um, My first year of teaching was rough. I worked in a very affluent school district that had won the governor's award every year. And so we were the kind of district where people would come into your classroom unannounced, sit down, and just watch. And it got to the point where I had a brochure for my classroom. Like, seriously, like, here's the brochure, and this is what we're doing. And this is
Right.
I mean, it was like, it was ridiculous PR, but it was good conditioning because I really learned early on that I needed to be on my game and I needed to know why I was doing what I was doing because I was going to be thoroughly questioned.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it wasn't anything like I thought. I think in the beginning, as I think any new teacher, the focus is always content. Like, what am I supposed to be teaching these kids?
Right.
And then, slowly over time, it becomes more about the person, the little human that's in front of you, and connecting with them and connecting with their families. And, it took me a couple of years to get that.
I think that's the natural progression of it is, first of all, even as a 20 or 21-year-old, 22-year-old student teacher, even I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so much better than this person. I don't care they've been doing it for 30 years. I'm so much better than this woman. But then you stand before kids and you realize, oh my gosh, I am terrible. And you go home and cry. But I
A
think,
lot.
I think the natural progression, like we talk all the time about, it's not really the content, it's using the content as the vehicle to impact that kid's life. But I think in order to get there, I really think you have to go through a year, a couple years, 3 years of it really being about the content, because you have to be
You
a
have to
master
know
at
it.
instruction and strategy and content to get onto the other side where you can use it to change that kid's life.
Definitely. And now, I mean, 22 years later, I feel like I can just breathe and the content flows out of my mouth. And
Yeah.
so but now that's the fun part, I think, about being a veteran teacher. And having that finish line so close, teaching in New York anyway is a 30-year commitment. And I'm like 8 years from the 30-year mark. And it's like I feel like I've just gotten great at it.
Isn't that interesting? I'm just I felt that way too. I remember it was about like at the 18 to 20 year mark, I was thinking, man, I'm starting to get pretty good at this. And I'm thinking I've been at it for 2 decades, and just now I feel like, you know what? I might be okay.
Yeah.
Such a crazy career. And so your focus is in special education. So at what age are you teaching now?
I I'm lucky in that I get to be specialized. So I teach 10th grade world history and I teach 11th grade United States history. So when I have a student, so they're between like 15 and 18 years old. So when I'm teaching them, which is nice, is I get them for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, year one is kind of getting to know them, and year two is just fun because we know each other and I know how they learn and I know how to pull information out of them and get
Right.
them, I know which buttons to push to get them to do what they need to do. So, I mean, that's what I love about my job is that I'm able to really form a nice relationship with kids because I'm with them for 2 years.
Yeah. And for you with COVID, tell me your situation. You guys in person now? Are you hybrid, online? What are you doing?
Uh, well, we started our school year out in September and
Uh,
we started on a hybrid model. So we had, I was only seeing kids twice a week in person. And so I had a couple of different groups of kids. And then we moved in November to completely distance learning. And so that was interesting too, because some of the kids because in a hybrid model, you have some kids who are completely distance learners. They never come to school. So they're really depending on you to show up for Facebook Lives, not Facebook Lives, Google Classroom Lives. You interact with them strictly on paper for the most part or through
yeah.
email. But I found that when we went completely all remote, a lot of those kids started coming out of the woodwork and I got to meet them for the first time. This is the first year I have kids that some of them, I don't even know what they look like. I don't know what their voice sounds like. My
Yeah.
entire relationship with them is through, just messaging them
Yeah.
or through the papers that they hand in. So it's an odd situation, but right now we're back to hybrid. We've been doing this again for I don't know a couple of weeks. We've been back live, and it's nice because the kids who did come back, it was I mean they were just happy. You know what I mean? Really
Yeah.
appreciative and happy. Not to say that they weren't in September, but in September, there was a lot of disappointment because a lot of kids were really hoping to come back full time and that, they'd get to see all their friends. And slowly, a lot of kids in September, especially, found out, hey, my best friend is not in my cohort. I never see them. And that's, or my sport was canceled,
Yeah.
and so a lot of things that hook kids into coming to school, whether it's sports or the school play or chorus or band, it's just not happening this year. And that's sad. It's so sad.
It is such a painful experience. I have a son in high school. He's a sophomore in high school, and he's been home. He hasn't gone to school, and so he's online every day. And just watching this from afar, it's just painful to watch simply because, from his perspective, because he has no connections with these kids. We, you know, it and they don't know each other at all. And I feel so bad here. I mean, these teachers are just incredible, and they're pouring their heart and their soul into this lesson online. And I'll look at the screen, not one kid has their camera on, and here's the
Yes.
teacher pouring it into and just got their little circles with letters in them, little initials. That's it. And I feel for this teacher. I mean, here we are. They've been doing this since September, and here we are in February, and these teachers are just relentless. It's unbelievable to watch.
I know. At first, I have the same thing. My 10th graders, all icons, all of them, all icons. My 11th graders will show up once in a while and show me their face because we have a bit of a relationship from the previous year. But I'm telling you, teaching icons is rough.
You know,
It's just rough.
I
And
told my son, I said, "Listen, man, if you want to make your teacher cry, all you have to do is tell everybody to turn the camera on at the same time, and I promise your teacher will break down in emotional wreck and
well,
boo-hoo. I
or
guarantee
he
it."
will. I
Yeah.
can't. I had this one student. I have not met him, and I don't know what he looks like. His little picture is not in our school roster. But one day he came to class and he forgot to turn his camera on, and I totally blew it because I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at you! Look at you! How handsome! It's so good to see your face!" Click. All of a sudden, he's in the instant icon. I haven't seen him since.
You couldn't control yourself. You're like, that's so good. And so
my,
for you,
I was gonna say, my favorite icon story is this though. We had a teacher being observed, and there was a student in her class named William. And William came to school and she's getting all excited because William hasn't shown up in a couple of weeks and she is oohing and eyeing over William. Williams was the vice principal. he was doing the observing.
that's great. I can't even believe we're doing online observations, but I guess, you have to do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
For you as a veteran teacher, and do you feel like you're starting to figure out this connection thing and connecting with kids, or you're still struggling with it?
I think for the most part, I can connect with kids,
Yeah.
whether they are really shy or painfully anxious or the badass. I mean, I feel like I can connect. In fact, if they are the badass, I for the most part can connect. So, because
Feel
I'm the badass.
right.
So
Yeah.
but no, I feel like I don't know, and I can't put it into words necessarily. I just think it's something that happens slowly over time. The more and more you're with kids and the more you're in their lives and the more invested you are in them personally, it just comes. And it's amazing to me that even amidst COVID and kids who don't know you that well, um, they can sense that, this adult is worthy of my story. And they'll share it with you. And you just have to hold space for them and be honored that they are sharing a piece of themselves with you that they normally don't share with others.
Man,
And
I
I
love
think I was going to say, and I think that comes from transparency on my part too, because I do share a lot of my personal story with kids when it's appropriate. And I definitely like using my life as a platform to uplift theirs.
yeah. Just, that idea of becoming the adult in their life that is worthy of their story. Just powerful. I think you're right, when it comes to that transparency, I still but I still see teachers out there trying to do that thing. This is my class and you're my student. I've got the big desk, you've got the small desk. That should tell you something, with this us versus them type of thing rather than, I'm just trying to facilitate a classroom family
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
letting them into your life at an appropriate level so they can see who you really are. Because I mean, if we're gonna build this family where everyone comes together and respects one another and loves one another, like, that has to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, I have an amazing opportunity to be in kids' lives 40 minutes every day, whether it's in person or online. And that's a pretty big responsibility, and it's a magnificent gift. And I just want to use it to uplift kids.
Yeah. You know what I think about is I think about those moments that kids remember forever. And I just think about all these stories I've heard from my former students, and they'll talk about something that happened in class. And lots of times I don't even remember what they're even taught, but it was some moment that someone said something or something that occurred. And when you think about when you put it like that, like we have 40 minutes. I mean, that every day there's an opportunity to create a memory that they'll have in their life forever. I mean, it's just a powerful, powerful responsibility.
It really is. And I think I feel bad for any teacher who doesn't really see the tremendous responsibility and gift that they have to really uplift somebody and change their lives forever.
You know, Charlotte was talking about how for lots of our kids, like this is their family. This is their only family. And it reminds me of those kids that I would have at the high school when I was teaching high school that I mean, they were a mess. They were in the office constantly, and they're causing trouble in every class and in the hallway. And oh my gosh! But then you know what? When I'm leaving school at 5:45, and we've been out of school for 2 hours, and I walk through the cafeteria, you know who's still in there playing dominoes with their friends? All those same kids.
Yep. Or
And
hanging out outside,
yep.
or just like they're not going home.
No, man, this is it. This
Yeah.
is and as miserable as they made my life that day, we have to keep in mind, like, these are our kids, forever. This is their family. This is where they're gonna learn about being an adult, being a parent, being a friend, being an employee or an employer. I mean, this is where we're gonna learn it all.
I think during COVID, especially, I have become so aware that sometimes school is the only healthy, safe space a kid has. I have heard one too many stories from students from their mouths about the domestic violence within their home, about how they're afraid to leave the house, they're afraid to go home to the house. I mean, it's just this constant fear-based living. Um, and and coming to school for them is a relief.
Yeah.
It's a moment where they can breathe a little bit. I know they're worried about mom who's at home or whatever is going on, but for a moment, they are really safe.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, especially the high school. I mean, it's every level, but we hear it so much in junior high and the high school where kids talk about they want independence and freedom and all that stuff, and I get it, but they do want those things, but I think deep down inside, they want it inside the confines of structure, and inside the confines of responsibility. These I think, of course, they want the freedom, but what they need is that structure and that safe place with established crystal clear boundaries that they can see and they can feel.
Yeah, because I've become very, very aware that it's not as commonplace as I think. I mean, I've raised 4 children, and I think I've done it with some structure, but not super structure. But yet, our house is a safe space too. So uh, it's amazing to me what some of our kids call home. It's sad. It's sad for me, and that's why I think too. I want to be the healthy adult in their lives to show them this is what healthy looks like, sounds like, feels like, and you can choose different.
Yeah, when I yeah, Tamika, she's talking about how her kids asking like, "Can we do school on Saturday?" Because they want to come back, and like I get it, and we as teachers, like that's when you kind of know you've have this thing a little bit figured out is when I remember I would have kids come into my classes, "Hey Bowman, dude, you got to count me absent today." I'm like, I'm not counting you out. Why would I count? Dude, I skipped all day, but I came to your class. But if you count me present, it's going to mess everything up. Just count me absent. So they thought I was absent the whole day. And so like then like those moments are like, oh my gosh, this kid walked all the way from his neighborhood just to come to this class. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Of course, he didn't do anything. He didn't learn.
he needed a little bit of your energy.
Just wanted to hang and be part of the fam is what he really
Yeah,
wanted, And
yeah.
I think like that when we build those kind of relationships, because let's face it, man, like I'm sure you're passionate about history, but I know you're more passionate about that kid's life and all the dates and people and all the stuff they need to know. They can find that on Google anyway.
They really can. I just put flair in it.
Little flair. Knowing you probably embellish some of the stories as well.
Oh, for God's sake. Yes,
Make
yes.
it a little bit more exciting.
The grosser, the better.
Right. Yeah. Hey, for you, I'm curious, as growing up, you mentioned that you struggled somewhat academically. Do you think that helps you be a better teacher?
Yes. On a variety of levels. I know what it's like to struggle in the classroom. I know what it's like to sit in the desk and wish and pray that the teacher does not call on you, that they do not call you up to the board, that they don't ask you anything, that they don't even acknowledge that you're in the class. You just want to hide.
Yeah.
I hated that. I hated feeling stupid. I hated feeling like I didn't belong in school. For me, though, I mean, the hook for me was music. I mean, I sang in a couple choirs and I was always in the school play on some level. And that was what kept me coming. It sure wasn't the academics. Um, but like I said, once I got to college and I learned how to learn and learning came to life for me, I was like, I just didn't want to stop. I was telling kids the other day, I said, there is no way I should have a master's degree right now. There was just no way. When I was in 10th grade, my guidance counselor sat with me to go over the plan. And I told him I wanted to be a sign language interpreter and I wanted to go to RIT. And he just sat back in his chair and laughed. He laughed at me
Yeah.
and then told me I really should consider going to trade school and that I would be a really good cosmetologist. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a cosmetologist.
Hey.
Hello. But that wasn't my dream,
Yeah.
and he kind of took my dream and stomped on it. But he also gave me a lot of ammunition because I was like, I'll show him.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
I did.
how that same conversation could have affected somebody else with a different personality another way, and they would be, miserable right now in some job and just full of regret that they didn't pursue their dream of, being an interpreter. I mean, it's just, that's the scary part of being an educator, where it's in the classroom or the counselor's office or administrator or anywhere, any position in that building. And there's comes so much, and you're going to have an impact. You're going to have a monumental impact on the life of a child. The only question is it going to be positive or negative?
Yeah. And I had some good teachers, but I have to say, I remember the really rotten ones too.
Yeah.
I really do. Like the teacher who kept calling me Pat, Pat, Pat. And I'd be like, my name is Tricia. You're lucky you have a name. And I was like, what? So I had this poor man for 3 years and I was Pat. How easy would it have been just to be like, oh, I'm sorry, it's Tricia. Okay.
Right. You're lucky you even have a name.
Come on.
I know. Those are, those are stories. It's like every teacher has those stories. I think that's like it's good for us to think, man, I don't want to be that one.
No, not at all. Not at
No.
all.
Yeah. Hey, as we're coming to the we're getting into the last third of the school year. If I know you're constantly thinking and mulling over ideas and shifting your focus. Like, what's on your mind right now with your classroom and your kids, and kind of what are you hoping for as you're in the home stretch of the year?
I am really hoping that we can continue this hybrid model, that I get to put my eyes on some of my kids a couple days a week. I'm really hoping, I don't think so, but I'm really hoping somehow we can really celebrate our seniors somehow this year. Last year we did have graduation, but we had 5 separate graduation ceremonies, which is a bummer when you're a class of like I don't know. I think we had a class of 200 maybe. And we split them into 5 different graduating groups. A lot of kids just didn't get that final goodbye with their classmates,
Yeah.
because their friends were graduating in a different pod. So I'm hoping that we can really somehow celebrate our seniors and make the last half of their year memorable and special and not such drudgery.
Yeah.
I spoke to a couple of my senior friends at the grocery store tonight, and I said to them, I said, well, because we were going to do football this spring. They were going to try to move football to the spring. And it's looking more and more like that's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not completely out of the realm, but
Yeah.
but this and he was, a big football player. He's like, you know what? I just want to take my girlfriend to a ball. That's all I want. And he just wants something really simple. And I hope he can
Yeah.
have that. I hope he can. That's what I really want, as just to celebrate our seniors and make something, just a bright spot to the year somewhere. Because
Yeah.
everything has just been, they've missed a lot this year, whether it's sports or, their music program or just silly things that we do in the course of a year that make school fun, like Spirit Week and pep rallies and, things that really make school fun. They've missed out.
Yeah. I was thinking about that when we come back and things normalize. I'm excited to see just how over the top and intensely fun things are going to be, because I missed it. They don't, and everyone knew, they took it for granted. Now it's obvious. I didn't know, a Spirit Week or a pep rally or whatever could be that fun. And
Yeah.
when we come back, I think it's really going to be something special.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping for.
I love it. Well, hey man, listen, I love that we get to chat, and I love your kids have you, and I'm always excited every couple of months to see what happens with your hair, and 'cause it's a big part of my life. Like, that's what I look forward to. And and thank you so much for hanging out and joining us tonight. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Hal.
All right, you're awesome. Have a good night.
Good night.
Stay warm.